I stand in my custom Vera Wang gown, watching my fiancé Marcus Chen whisper something to my maid of honor, my younger sister Lily, and I know with crystalline certainty that today is the day they destroy everything I've ever loved, everything my family has built over 5 generations, everything that makes me who I am. Because in 3 hours I will be dead, and tomorrow the Hamilton legacy will be nothing but ash and legal documents scattered across bankruptcy court floors. The ivory silk feels like a shroud against my skin as I watch them exchange that look, the one I've been pretending not to see for months. The look that says they think they're so clever, so much smarter than naive little Sophia, who trusts everyone and questions nothing, who handed them the keys to the kingdom because she believed love was real and family meant something more than opportunity. Sophia, darling, you look pale, my mother says, adjusting my veil with hands that will be cold in 4 hours. Her heart stopped by the poison Lily slipped into her champagne during the toast. The same poison that will kill my father while he's trapped in the bridal suite they've locked him in. The same poison I will wish I had drunk instead of living long enough to watch everything burn. But I don't know that yet. In this moment, I'm still the fool who believes Marcus Chen loves me, who thinks my sister Lily wants what's best for me, who has no idea that the man I'm about to marry has spent 3 years systematically planning the complete annihilation of my family's empire, using my love as the key to unlock every door, every safe, every trust fund, every business relationship my great-great-grandfather built when he came to America with nothing but determination and a dream that his descendants would never know poverty again. I'm fine, Mother, I say, and my voice sounds strange to my own ears, distant and hollow like it's coming from the bottom of a well, because somewhere deep inside me, a part of my soul already knows what's coming, can feel the weight of betrayal settling into my bones like winter frost, permanent and killing. The guests are taking their seats in the Hamilton family chapel. 200 of the most influential people in the city, titans of industry and old money aristocrats, politicians and philanthropists, all here to witness what they think is a love story, but what is actually the opening act of a tragedy that will make headlines for weeks and destroy 5 generations of careful reputation building in a single afternoon. Marcus catches my eye and smiles that perfect smile, the one that made me fall in love with him at the charity gala 18 months ago. The smile that hides a predator behind white teeth and practiced charm, and I smile back because I still don't know, I still believe, I still think this is my fairy tale beginning instead of my nightmare ending. Everything is ready, Lily whispers, and she means the forged documents hidden in the bridal suite safe. The ones that will transfer all Hamilton Industries assets to the shell companies Marcus has been setting up for 2 years, the ones my father will supposedly sign during the reception. Except my father will be unconscious by then, dying slowly while the lawyers Marcus hired complete the legal theft of everything my family owns. Ready for what? I ask, because I'm still innocent, still trusting, still the kind of person who believes her sister wants her happiness instead of her destruction. And Lily just laughs and says, "Your new life, silly." And I think she means marriage and children, and growing old with the man I love, not poverty and disgrace, and a plunge from the Hamilton Industries building rooftop because I can't live in a world where love was a lie and family was a weapon used against me. The music starts canon in D, just like I dreamed when I was a little girl playing dress-up in my mother's closet, and I take my father's arm, feeling the solid strength of him, not knowing this is the last time I'll touch him while he's alive, the last time I'll see him smile, the last time he'll look at me with pride instead of horror as he realizes what his daughters have done to him. We walk down the aisle together, past faces that beam with joy for my happiness, past Alexander Morrison, who looks concerned for reasons I don't understand, his dark eyes searching mine like he's trying to tell me something urgent and terrible that I'm too blind with love to see, past the Chens who smile with satisfaction because they know their phoenix son is about to capture the golden goose and wring its neck. Marcus waits at the altar in his perfect tuxedo, looking like every woman's dream of the ideal husband, successful and handsome and charming, giving no sign that he's a sociopath who has spent the last 3 years studying my family like a general studies enemy territory, mapping our weaknesses, identifying our pressure points, planning his invasion with military precision while whispering sweet lies about forever and always into my trusting ears. "Dearly beloved," the minister begins, and I think about the future I've imagined. The babies with Marcus's eyes and my stubborn chin. The family dinners where our children grow up surrounded by cousins and grandparents. The legacy we'll build together on the foundation my ancestors laid, never suspecting that Marcus has already sold that future to pay for his revenge against the family that supposedly wronged his grandfather decades before I was born. The ceremony proceeds like a beautiful dream, each word a step closer to the moment when I say I do and legally bind myself to my destroyer, when I give him the right to speak for me, to sign documents in my name, to access accounts and properties and trusts that have been protected by Hamilton blood for over a century, all of it handed over with a smile and a kiss, and a promise to love and honor the man who plans to leave me with nothing but grief and guilt and a death that will look like suicide, even though it's really murder. The murder of everything I thought I knew about love and loyalty and the meaning of family. Do you, Sophia Elizabeth Hamilton, take Marcus Chen to be your husband? The minister asks, and I open my mouth to say yes, to complete my own destruction, to hand over the keys to the kingdom with a smile and a tear of joy. Because I still don't know, I still believe. I still think this is love instead of the most elaborate con game ever played against a family that trusted too easily and loved too deeply. I do, I whisper, and the words taste like ashes in my mouth, though I don't understand why. And Marcus slides the ring onto my finger, the ring that will become evidence in the fraud case. The ring I will tear from my finger and throw at his feet when I finally understand what he's done, what they've both done, what I've helped them do to my own flesh and blood. You may kiss the bride, the minister says, and Marcus kisses me with lips that taste like triumph and betrayal. And I kiss him back with all the love in my heart, not knowing it's the last real love I'll ever feel. That in 3 hours I'll discover what love really means when it's stripped away, when it's revealed to be nothing but manipulation and greed, dressed up in romance, and forever promises that were always meant to be broken. The reception is a blur of congratulations and champagne, of toast to our happiness and future, of dancing to songs about eternal love while my husband and my sister finalize the details of my family's destruction, while the papers are signed and the money is transferred, and the Hamilton Empire crumbles into Marcus Chen's waiting hands like a house of cards in an earthquake, deliberate and complete and irreversible. I find my parents in the bridal suite, collapsed and gray-faced, the champagne glasses shattered on the floor beside them, and I know with horrible clarity that this is not a heart attack. This is not a coincidence. This is murder dressed up as natural causes. And I scream for help, but it's too late. It's always been too late because the plan was perfect and I was the perfect fool to make it work. Why? I whisper to Lily when she finds me there, when she pretends to be shocked and horrified, when she holds me while I sob over our parents' bodies, and she strokes my hair and whispers, "It's going to be okay, Sophie. We'll get through this together." But her eyes are cold and calculating, already counting the money, already planning her new life on the ashes of mine. The truth comes later when the lawyers arrive with documents I never signed, when the bank accounts are empty, when the company stock has been transferred to corporations I've never heard of, when I realize that every "I love you" was a lie, every kiss was theft, every moment of happiness was just bait in a trap that took 3 years to spring and 3 hours to destroy everything I thought was permanent and safe and mine. "He never loved you, Sophia," Lily says when I confront her, when the pretense finally falls away, and I see her as she really is, as she's always been, hungry and jealous and willing to kill our parents for money and status and revenge against a sister who had everything she wanted. "You were just the key to everything we needed. Marcus planned this from the moment he first saw you at that charity gala. Did you really think someone like him could love someone like you?" I look at my sister, my baby sister, who I protected and defended and loved unconditionally for 25 years, and I see a stranger, a monster, a creature who shares my DNA but none of my humanity, and I understand that I never knew her at all, that she's been wearing a mask her entire life, waiting for the right moment to tear it off and reveal the predator underneath. Standing on the roof of the Hamilton Industries building, looking down at the city my family helped build, I think about justice and revenge, and all the ways this story could have ended differently if I had been smarter, less trusting, more suspicious of perfection when it walked into my life, wearing Marcus Chen's face and promising me the world. The wind whips my hair around my face as I step closer to the edge, And I think about the children I'll never have, the love I'll never feel, the life I'll never live because I was stupid enough to believe that fairy tales were real and happily ever after was possible for girls like me who trust too easily and love too deeply. If I could do it again, I whisper to the wind, to the night, to the universe that let this happen, I would destroy them both before they could touch my family, before they could hurt anyone else the way they've hurt me, before they could turn love into a weapon and family into a battlefield. Then I step forward into nothing, into darkness, into the end of everything I thought I knew about myself and the world and the people I trusted most. And my last thought, before the ground rushes up to meet me, is a prayer, a wish, a desperate hope that somehow, somewhere, there might be a chance to make this right, to save my parents, to protect my family, to turn the tables on the predators who destroyed everything good and innocent and trusting in my world. Then I opened my eyes and realized I had been reborn. I'm 22 again, standing in my childhood bedroom with its pale pink walls and white furniture, the morning sunlight streaming through gauze curtains that my mother hung when I turned 16. And I know with absolute certainty that today is March 15th, exactly 6 months before the charity gala where I first met Marcus Chen, 6 months before I handed him the weapon he would use to destroy my family, 6 months before I became the fool who loved her way into tragedy and death. My hands are young again, soft and unmarked by the stress rashes that covered them in those final months, the skin smooth and pale, without the needle marks from the IVs in the hospital where I sat beside my dying parents, watching them fade away while Marcus and Lily counted money in offshore accounts and planned their new lives on the ashes of mine. The mirror shows me a face I haven't seen in years, round and innocent and trusting, without the hollow cheeks and dark circles of those final terrible months, without the lines of grief and betrayal that aged me decades in a matter of hours, and I touch my reflection with trembling fingers, hardly daring to believe that I've been given this impossible gift, this chance to undo the worst mistake in the history of mistakes, to save everyone I love from the predators who destroyed them. My phone buzzes with a text from Lily. Don't forget about the charity gala tomorrow night. I already picked out your dress. It's going to be perfect. And I stare at the message, remembering how excited she was, how she pushed me to go, how she insisted that I needed to get out more, to meet people, to find someone special, never letting me suspect that she already knew exactly who I would meet, that Marcus Chen's attendance had been arranged months in advance, that my baby sister was already planning to sell me to the highest bidder. I delete the message without responding and sit down on my bed, my childhood bed with its white duvet and throw pillows embroidered with my initials, and I make a list in my head of everything I need to do, every trap I need to set, every weapon I need to forge in the next 6 months to ensure that this time, when Marcus Chen meets Sophia Hamilton, he'll be walking into his own destruction instead of orchestrating mine. Tomorrow, I will attend that charity gala, and I will wear the same emerald green dress that caught his eye before. And I will let him approach me with his practiced charm and rehearsed lines about sustainable energy and family legacy, but this time I'll be the hunter pretending to be prey, the spider waiting in the web that looks like it was spun for his convenience, but is actually designed for his destruction. I know his entire playbook now, every move he'll make, every lie he'll tell, every manipulation he'll use to make me fall in love with him while he studies my family like a general studies enemy territory, and I will let him think he's succeeding while I gather evidence, build traps, and prepare the elaborate revenge that will destroy him as completely as he destroyed me. My parents are downstairs having breakfast, alive and healthy and trusting, discussing business deals and charity events, and the future they're planning for a family they don't know is being hunted. And I want to run to them, to throw my arms around them and warn them about what's coming. But I know they would never believe me, could never imagine that love could be a weapon, and family could be a lie, and their eldest daughter's future husband could be a sociopath planning their deaths. Instead, I will protect them the only way I can, by becoming the kind of person who can outwit Marcus Chen at his own game, who can turn his weapons against him, who can use his greed and arrogance and sense of superiority to lead him into a trap so perfect, so complete, so devastating that he'll destroy himself while trying to destroy us. I think about Alexander Morrison, my childhood friend who tried to warn me, who saw through Marcus's facade from the very beginning, but whose concerns I dismissed as jealousy, or overprotectiveness, never recognizing that his worry came from love, real love, the kind that wants to protect without possessing, that offers support without demanding payment, that sees danger and sounds the alarm even when it means being rejected by the person you're trying to save. This time, I will listen to Alexander. We'll see his love for what it is instead of taking it for granted. We'll build something real with someone genuine instead of falling for a predator's perfect performance. But first, I have to ensure that Marcus Chen can never hurt anyone again, that his plan backfires so spectacularly that he becomes a cautionary tale told in business schools about what happens when sociopaths underestimate their victims. The Hamilton family fortune spans 5 generations and includes shipping, real estate, technology, sustainable energy, and enough legitimate businesses to fund a small country, but it also includes some investments and connections that exist in gray areas. Relationships with people who solve problems quietly and efficiently, resources that can be mobilized when the family is threatened, tools that I never thought I'd need to use, but now understand were always there, waiting for someone smart enough and desperate enough to call them into service. Marcus Chen thinks he's hunting a naive trust fund princess who doesn't understand the real world, who will hand over her family's empire because she believes in love and loyalty and the essential goodness of people. But he's actually hunting a woman who has been murdered once already, who has felt the pain of ultimate betrayal, who has watched her parents die because she was too trusting to protect them, and who will never, ever make that mistake again. I practice my naive laugh in the mirror until it sounds exactly like it used to, bright and innocent and completely without guile. The laugh of a girl who has never been hurt, who doesn't know that love can be a lie and family can be a weapon, who trusts completely because she's never been given a reason not to trust. And I perfect it until even I believe it, until I can use it like a mask to hide the predator that Marcus Chen's betrayal has created. This time, when he tells me he loves me, I'll know he's lying, and when he asks about my family's business, I'll know what he's really after. And when he starts to isolate me from my support system, I'll recognize the manipulation for what it is and use it against him, feeding him false information while gathering real evidence of his crimes, building a case so airtight that when it finally comes to trial, there will be no possibility of escape, no room for doubt, no chance of anything but complete and total justice. 6 months, I think, looking at my calendar. 6 months to become someone smart enough and ruthless enough to outwit a master manipulator, to turn his own weapons against him, to save my family and destroy my enemies while building something real and lasting with someone who actually deserves my love. And I smile, a real smile this time. The smile of a woman who knows exactly what she's fighting for and exactly how she's going to win. And tomorrow, Marcus Chen will meet his match, and he'll never see it coming. The Metropolitan Museum's charity gala buzzes with the same energy I remember. 500 of the city's elite gathered to support sustainable energy initiatives, while displaying their wealth and status like peacocks preening in designer plumage. And I move through the crowd in my emerald green silk gown, the same dress that caught Marcus Chen's attention before, but this time I'm wearing it like armor, like bait, like the perfect disguise for a predator pretending to be prey. I know he's here somewhere, probably studying the guest list, identifying targets, planning his approach with the same military precision that made his plan so devastatingly effective the first time. And I sip champagne and smile at acquaintances while my eyes scan the room, looking for the man who destroyed my life, who I'm going to destroy in return with weapons he gave me and techniques he taught me during 3 years of systematically dismantling my ability to trust. Sophia Hamilton, you look absolutely radiant tonight, Mrs. Pemberton gushes, the same Mrs. Pemberton who will cross the street to avoid me after the scandal breaks, after Marcus and Lily's plan succeeds and the Hamilton name becomes synonymous with financial fraud and family dysfunction. But tonight she still thinks I'm worth cultivating, still believes my family's money makes me interesting. Thank you so much, I say, and my voice has exactly the right blend of modesty and pleasure, the voice of a girl who is flattered by attention but not hungry for it, who comes from enough money that compliments are nice but not necessary, and I can see Mrs. Pemberton filing away my response, cataloging it for future social calculations. Alexander Morrison appears at my elbow with perfect timing, tall and solid, and familiar in his black tuxedo. His dark hair slightly mussed like he's been running his hands through it, which means he's worried about something. Probably the same something that made him so protective the last time. the instincts that tried to save me from Marcus Chen when I was too blinded by love to listen to reason. "You're drawing attention," he murmurs, his hand settling protectively on my lower back, and I lean into him slightly, letting myself remember what real affection feels like, what it means to be touched by someone who wants to protect you instead of possess you, who offers strength instead of demanding submission. "Good attention or bad attention?" I ask, though I know the answer because I can feel eyes on me from across the room. Predatory eyes that have already identified me as the perfect target. The naive princess who will fund someone else's revenge against her own family. And I turn slightly, just enough to present my profile to whoever is watching. Just enough to look approachable and innocent and completely unaware of being hunted. "Excuse me, but aren't you Sophia Hamilton?" The voice comes from behind me, smooth and cultured with just a hint of accent. And I turn around to face Marcus Chen for the second time in my life. This time knowing exactly what he is, what he wants, what he plans to do to everyone I love. And I let my face light up with the same pleased surprise I felt before, when I thought meeting him was serendipity instead of calculated predation. "I am," I say, extending my hand like I'm offering him a gift instead of a weapon he'll try to use against me. And when he takes it, his fingers are exactly as warm and strong as I remember, exactly as practiced at conveying sincerity through touch, exactly as skilled at making a woman feel special and chosen, and completely safe with a man who is planning her destruction. "Marcus Chen," he says, and his smile is perfect, camera ready, the smile of a man who has practiced looking trustworthy and charming and completely harmless, and I smile back with exactly the right amount of interest, not too eager but not too cool. The smile of a woman who is intrigued but not overwhelmed, who might be persuaded to get to know him better if he plays his cards right. "I heard your family's company is doing incredible work in sustainable energy," he continues, "and I know this is the opening gambit, the first probe to gauge my knowledge of the business, my involvement in family decisions, my potential value as an inside source." And I tilt my head slightly like I'm pleased by his interest, but also a little surprised that someone as sophisticated as him would know about our company. "Oh, you know about Hamilton Industries?" I ask, letting a note of genuine pride creep into my voice, because I am proud of what my family has built, what my great-great-grandfather started with nothing but determination, and what each generation has expanded and improved and protected. The legacy that Marcus Chen plans to steal and destroy because his grandfather was fired for embezzlement 60 years ago, and the Chen family has nursed that grievance into a poison that demands revenge against people who had nothing to do with ancient history. "Of course," he says, moving closer, his cologne expensive and subtle, his tuxedo perfectly tailored, everything about him designed to convey success and sophistication, and the kind of confidence that comes from generations of good breeding. Except I know now that it's all performance, all costume, all carefully calculated to hide the Phoenix man underneath who clawed his way up from nothing and plans to use my love as a ladder to reach heights that should be earned, not stolen. Alexander's hand tightens almost imperceptibly on my back, his protective instincts firing the same warning signals that I ignored the first time, and I glance at him with what looks like mild surprise, as if I can't understand why he's suddenly tense, as if I don't recognize the danger that's making every survival instinct he has scream in alarm. "Alexander Morrison," Alexander says, extending his hand to Marcus with the kind of cool politeness that means he's already made up his mind about someone and doesn't like what he's decided. And Marcus shakes it with the perfect pressure, not too firm, not too weak, the handshake of a man who has studied every detail of social interaction and practiced until he can perform sincerity on command. "Marcus Chen, pleasure to meet you," Marcus replies, and his voice is exactly the same temperature as Alexander's, professional courtesy masking mutual assessment, two alpha males sizing each other up while pretending to be civilized, and I watch the interplay with new eyes, seeing the way Marcus immediately identifies Alexander as a potential obstacle, already planning how to neutralize the threat he represents. "Are you in sustainable energy as well?" Alexander asks, and there's something in his tone that suggests he already knows the answer, has already done research, has already identified inconsistencies in Marcus Chen's public persona that are setting off alarm bells, and I realize that Alexander's protective instincts weren't just emotional jealousy, they were based on actual intelligence, actual investigation, actual evidence that I was too blinded by love to hear. "I dabble in various investments," Marcus says smoothly, which is the perfect non-answer, vague enough to avoid specifics while implying vast wealth and business acumen. And I file it away as the first lie in what will become a catalog of deceptions, each one carefully documented for future use in court proceedings that will destroy him as completely as he destroyed me. How fascinating, I say, and my voice has exactly the right note of breathy interest, the tone of a woman who finds successful men attractive but isn't quite sure why, who is impressed by business acumen without understanding it. And I see Marcus's eyes sharpen slightly, recognizing opportunity, identifying weakness, calculating how to exploit my apparent naivety about financial matters. Perhaps we could discuss it over dinner sometime, he suggests, and his timing is perfect, not too eager but not too casual. The suggestion of a man who is interested but not desperate, who has other options but finds me particularly intriguing, and I let my cheeks flush slightly. Just enough to suggest that I'm flattered and tempted, but also a little overwhelmed by the attention. I'd like that, I say, and the words taste like poison in my mouth because I know what they mean. What they start, what they will lead to if I let his plan proceed according to schedule. But I also know that this time I'm the one setting the trap. This time I'm the predator using attraction as a weapon. This time I'm going to let him think he's seducing me while I gather everything I need to destroy him. We exchange numbers with the same ritual significance as signing a treaty, and I program his contact information into my phone while making mental notes about voice patterns and speech rhythms that will help me identify him on recorded phone calls, evidence that will prove premeditation when the fraud case finally goes to trial. There's something off about that guy, Alexander murmurs when Marcus moves away to work the room, probably identifying other potential targets, other sources of information about my family's business, other pressure points he can exploit if his primary plan encounters obstacles. And I turn to look at Alexander with wide, surprised eyes, as if the thought of suspicion never occurred to me. What do you mean? I ask, because this is important, because I need to understand what Alexander saw that I missed, what evidence he gathered that might have saved me if I had been smart enough to listen, what resources he can provide in the war I'm about to wage against the man who destroyed my family. Just be careful, Soph, he says, and his voice carries the weight of genuine concern, real affection, the kind of worry that comes from caring about someone's welfare instead of their usefulness. And I reach up to touch his cheek, letting myself feel grateful for the first time in years. Grateful that someone was trying to protect me, even when I was too stupid to protect myself. I will, I promise. And this time I mean it. This time I will listen to his warnings and value his insight and build something real with someone who actually deserves my trust. But first, I have to ensure that Marcus Chen can never hurt anyone again. That his plan backfires so completely that he becomes the victim of his own weapons, destroyed by the same tactics he planned to use against my family. The evening proceeds exactly as I remember, with Marcus working the room like a professional, charming donors and identifying connections, building the network of relationships he'll use to gain access to my family's inner circle, and I watch him perform while pretending to be dazzled by his sophistication, cataloging every manipulation, every calculated gesture, every perfectly rehearsed response designed to make him seem trustworthy and successful and completely harmless. This time, I know better, and this time, knowledge is power, and this time, power will be justice served cold and thorough, and absolutely devastating to the man who thought love was a weakness he could exploit instead of strength that would ultimately destroy him. Marcus Chen has no idea what he's walking into, and by the time he realizes his mistake, it will be far too late to escape the trap I'm building with his own weapons and his own techniques and his own arrogant assumption that I'm too naive and trusting to be dangerous. He's about to learn exactly how wrong he is. 3 months of dating, Marcus Chen feels like playing chess with a master manipulator who doesn't know his opponent has already seen the endgame, and I perfect my performance as the naive trust fund princess day by day, letting him think he's systematically seducing me into handing over the keys to my family's empire, while I document every lie, record every conversation, and build the most comprehensive case of premeditated fraud the district attorney's office has ever seen. You're so refreshing, Sophia, Marcus says over dinner at Le Bernardin, the same restaurant where he took me the first time, his hand covering mine on the white tablecloth, while his eyes calculate the worth of my jewelry, the cost of my dress, the value of everything I represent in terms of access and influence and eventual profit. and I smile at him with perfect adoration, while the recording device sewn into my purse captures every word for future use in court proceedings. I feel like I can tell you anything. I lie sweetly, because that's what he needs to hear. That's what will make him confident enough to reveal his real plans. To trust me with information about shell companies and offshore accounts and the systematic theft he's been planning since the moment he first saw my photograph in a society magazine and identified me as the perfect target for his revenge against a family that dared to fire his criminal grandfather decades before I was born. The irony is exquisite. Marcus thinks he's playing me, but I'm the one feeding him carefully crafted vulnerabilities. False information designed to lead him into traps so subtle he'll never see them coming until it's too late to escape. And every tender moment between us is actually me gathering intelligence for the war I'm fighting to save everyone I love from the predator who destroyed them before and will never get the chance to do it again. I've been thinking about the future, he says, his thumb stroking across my knuckles with practiced tenderness. And I know this is the beginning of the long con, the gradual introduction of financial discussions that will eventually lead to marriage proposals and business partnerships and access to family accounts that he'll drain systematically while pretending to love me. And I lean forward with exactly the right combination of interest and innocence. What kind of future? I ask. And my voice has the breathless quality of a woman falling in love, someone who hangs on every word because she believes this man holds her happiness in his hands. And I watch his pupils dilate slightly with satisfaction as he recognizes the signs of successful manipulation, the evidence that his psychological warfare is working according to plan. The kind where we build something together, he says, and the words are honey smooth and completely meaningless, designed to make me feel chosen and special and completely safe with a man who is planning my destruction. And I let my breath catch slightly, just enough to suggest that the idea of a shared future with him is overwhelmingly romantic and exactly what I've been hoping to hear. Meanwhile, I'm mentally cataloging every detail about his behavior, the way his left eye twitches when he lies, the way his voice drops half an octave when he's being particularly manipulative, the way his breathing changes when he's calculating profit margins instead of feeling genuine emotion. And I'm building a psychological profile that will help me anticipate his moves and stay 3 steps ahead in the game he doesn't know we're playing. 2 weeks later, I bring him home for dinner with my parents, and I watch him perform the role of devoted boyfriend with the same skill that won him my trust the first time, charming my mother with compliments about her garden and engaging my father in discussions about sustainable energy initiatives, while his eyes catalog the artwork on our walls, the china we eat from, the casual displays of wealth that represent generations of careful investment and conservative financial management. He seems lovely, darling, my mother tells me later, while Marcus is in the study with my father, probably asking innocent questions about business succession and family trusts, gathering intelligence for the systematic theft he's planning, and I smile at my mother with genuine warmth because this time I know how precious these moments are, how limited our time together will be if I fail to stop what's coming. He makes me very happy, I say, and the lie tastes like ash in my mouth because happiness is what I had before I learned that love could be a weapon, before I discovered that family could be a betrayal, before I understood that trust was a luxury that naive people paid for with their lives. But my mother glows with satisfaction because she thinks her daughter has found love, real love, the kind that leads to marriage and grandchildren and the continuation of family legacy. If only she knew that the man charming her husband in the next room is planning to poison them both at our wedding reception, that his gentle questions about business are actually reconnaissance for the most elaborate theft in corporate history, that her daughter's happiness is built on quicksand that will collapse the moment Marcus Chen reveals his true nature. But she doesn't know, and I can't tell her without sounding insane. So I protect her the only way I can, by letting Marcus think his plan is working, while I systematically undermine every foundation he's building his scheme on, replacing his carefully crafted vulnerabilities with traps that will spring when he least expects them. Sophia mentioned that you're considering early retirement, Marcus says to my father when they rejoin us in the living room, and I recognize the fishing expedition, the attempt to establish timelines for when family control might transfer to the next generation, when access to accounts and assets might become vulnerable to someone with the right legal documents and the right manipulative skills. Oh, that's years away, my father laughs, not knowing that in Marcus's original timeline, early retirement would come in the form of death by poisoning, that the succession planning Marcus is so interested in will be irrelevant when there's no one left to succeed, and I make a mental note to ensure that particular aspect of the plan receives special attention from law enforcement when the time comes. But it's never too early to start planning, Marcus continues smoothly, and I admire the skill even as I despise the intent. The way he plants seeds that will grow into access and opportunity, the way he positions himself as helpful and concerned while actually gathering intelligence for criminal purposes. And I file away every word for the comprehensive dossier I'm building on his methods and motivations. The evening ends with Marcus kissing me goodnight on the front steps, his lips warm and skilled and completely practiced at conveying emotions he doesn't feel. And I kiss him back with what looks like growing passion but is actually cold fury, barely contained beneath a mask of romantic devotion. And I let him think he's seducing me deeper into his web while I tighten the noose I'm weaving around his neck. "I love you," he whispers against my ear, the same 3 words that destroyed me the first time, that made me vulnerable to every manipulation, every lie, every systematic betrayal that followed. And I whisper them back while mentally calculating how many years in federal prison premeditated fraud carries, how complete his fall will be when he realizes that love was never his weapon to use against me. Inside the house, I find Lily waiting in the kitchen with hot chocolate and her brightest smile, the same smile that hid her betrayal the first time. And I know she's about to begin her part of the plan, the systematic corruption of my trust and family that will make me vulnerable to complete manipulation by the time the wedding arrives. "So," she says, settling beside me on the window seat where we used to share secrets when we were children, before I learned that some secrets are weapons and some sisters are enemies wearing familiar faces. "Tell me everything about Marcus Chen, because I think you're falling in love, and I want to make sure he's good enough for my amazing big sister." The words are perfect, exactly what a loving sister should say, exactly the kind of protective concern that should make me feel cherished and supported. And I respond with exactly the right level of embarrassed happiness, as if her approval means everything to me, as if I trust her completely with my deepest feelings and most vulnerable hopes. But this time, I know what she really means. That she's beginning her reconnaissance for Marcus's plan, that she's already been recruited as his inside source, that her concern is performance designed to gather intelligence about my emotional state and my susceptibility to further manipulation, and I feed her carefully crafted information that will lead both of them exactly where I want them to go. "He's wonderful," I gush, and I let my voice carry all the breathless excitement of a woman falling in love for the first time, someone who believes in fairy tales and happy endings and the essential goodness of people who claim to care about her. And I watch Lily's eyes sharpen with satisfaction as she recognizes the successful manipulation, the evidence that I'm becoming exactly as vulnerable as Marcus needs me to be. This time, vulnerability is my weapon, naivety is my disguise, and trust is the bait I'm using to lure them both into a trap so perfect, so complete, so devastating that they'll destroy themselves while trying to destroy me, and justice will be served with the same precision and planning they used to commit their crimes. 6 months until the wedding, I think, as I watch Lily calculate the worth of my apparent foolishness. 6 months to let them think they're winning while I gather everything I need to ensure their complete and total defeat, and I smile at my sister with perfect love and trust while mentally preparing for the war she doesn't know I'm already fighting. Marcus proposes on a Tuesday evening in December, exactly as he did before, kneeling in the snow beside the fountain in Central Park where he first told me he loved me, and I watch him perform the same perfectly rehearsed speech about forever and always, while the recording device in my coat captures every calculated word for the prosecution's case file, every lie wrapped in romantic language, every false promise designed to make me legal signing authority for the theft of my family's entire fortune. "Sophia Elizabeth Hamilton," he says, his voice carefully modulated to convey overwhelming emotion barely held in check. And I know he's practiced this moment in mirrors, refined every gesture and inflection to maximum manipulative effect, designed to overwhelm me with romantic sentiment while he positions himself to commit the most elaborate financial crime in the history of corporate America. "Will you marry me?" he asks, opening the ring box to reveal the same 3-carat diamond he chose before, The ring that will become evidence in the fraud case, the symbol of engagement that was always meant to be a collar, not a promise, and I let my face transform with perfect surprise and overwhelming joy while my heart calculates the growing weight of evidence against him. Yes, I breathe, exactly as I did the first time. But now the word tastes like victory instead of surrender, like the spring of a trap instead of the signing of my own death warrant. And when he slides the ring onto my finger, I think about handcuffs instead of wedding bands, about prison cells instead of honeymoon suites, about justice served cold and comprehensive and absolutely final. He kisses me with practiced passion, while photographers capture the moment from strategic hiding places. Because everything Marcus Chen does is calculated for maximum impact, maximum manipulation, maximum leverage over my emotions and my family's perception of our relationship. And I kiss him back while mentally rehearsing the testimony I'll give when his crimes are finally revealed in court. The engagement announcement makes the society pages exactly as planned. The same photograph of us laughing together while I display my ring. The same glowing description of our romance that will seem tragic and naive when the truth comes out, when people realize that everything they're reading is fiction designed to provide cover for systematic criminal enterprise. Oh, Sophia, I'm so happy for you. Lily gushes when she sees the news, throwing her arms around me with what looks like sisterly excitement, but is actually satisfaction that phase one of the plan has been completed successfully, that Marcus now has legal standing to participate in family financial decisions. And I hug her back while documenting her performance for future reference. I can't believe I'm going to be married, I say, letting my voice carry all the breathless excitement of a woman whose dreams are coming true. Someone who believes she's found her fairy tale ending instead of signing up for systematic destruction. And I watch Lily's eyes glitter with anticipation for what comes next. The wedding planning that will provide cover for the most elaborate theft in criminal history. Wedding preparations begin immediately because Marcus is eager to establish the timeline that will give him access to family accounts and business decisions, and I throw myself into planning with the enthusiasm of a woman who believes she's preparing for the happiest day of her life instead of setting the stage for her family's complete destruction, while secretly ensuring that every vendor, every venue, every detail is actually part of the trap I'm building. What do you think about a spring wedding? Marcus suggests over dinner at his apartment. The same sparse, expensive space that reveals nothing about his real background, his real motivations, his real plans for my family's future. And I let my face light up with romantic enthusiasm, while I mentally calculate how much evidence I'll need to make the charges stick. That sounds perfect, I say, because spring gives me exactly the timeline I need to complete my counterintelligence operation, to gather every piece of documentation required to prove premeditation and conspiracy, to build the case that will send him to federal prison for the rest of his natural life. And I lean across the table to kiss him while thinking about justice instead of love. The next 6 months pass in a blur of wedding preparations that serve as cover for criminal preparations. Dress fittings that provide opportunities for Marcus and Lily to meet privately and coordinate their plans. Venue visits that allow them to scout security and establish escape routes. And I participate in every aspect while secretly recording everything, documenting every crime as it's planned and prepared and refined into the perfect theft. I've been thinking about prenuptial agreements, Marcus mentions casually one evening. The same conversation that led to my signing documents that gave him complete access to family assets. And I tilt my head with exactly the right expression of confusion and mild concern, as if the idea of protecting my wealth from my future husband seems unnecessarily pessimistic. Do you think we need one? I ask because this is the crucial moment, the point where his manipulation becomes legally actionable fraud, where his emotional manipulation crosses the line into criminal conspiracy, and I watch his face carefully as he calculates how to convince me that protecting him legally is actually protecting myself. It's just standard procedure, he says smoothly. The same lie that made me sign away my financial security the first time. And I nod thoughtfully as if I'm considering his advice, instead of documenting his attempt to manipulate me into legal vulnerability. And I agree to meet with his lawyer, the same corrupt attorney who helped draft the fraudulent documents that transferred Hamilton Industries to shell companies Marcus controls. The prenuptial agreement he presents is a masterpiece of legal deception, pages of complicated language designed to obscure the fact that marriage will give him signing authority for every account, every asset, Every investment my family has accumulated over 5 generations, and I read it with the careful attention of someone who wants to understand what she's agreeing to instead of someone who knows exactly what trap is being set. This seems very complicated, I say, letting uncertainty creep into my voice, because he needs to believe that I'm overwhelmed by legal language, that I'm dependent on his guidance to understand what I'm signing, that I trust him completely to protect my interests while he systematically destroys them. Don't worry about the details, he says. The same words that convinced me to sign my own destruction warrant the first time. And I smile at him with complete trust while mentally adding this conversation to the growing list of evidence that will prove he defrauded me systematically and with clear criminal intent. Meanwhile, Alexander watches my engagement with growing concern, the same protective instincts that tried to save me before. And I let him think I'm too blinded by love to see the danger, while secretly coordinating with him to build the comprehensive case that will ensure Marcus's complete destruction. Something's not right about this whole situation, Alexander tells me during one of our coffee meetings, the same warnings he tried to give me before, and I look at him with wide, hurt eyes, as if his suspicion wounds me, as if I can't understand why he can't just be happy for my happiness. I know you're trying to protect me, I say softly, reaching across the table to touch his hand, and this time the gesture carries real gratitude instead of dismissive affection, real appreciation for someone who is willing to risk our friendship to try to save my life. But Marcus loves me, and I love him, and I need you to trust that I know what I'm doing. The words are carefully chosen to sound like naive romantic conviction, while actually conveying that I do know what I'm doing, that his protective instincts are correct, that I'm asking him to trust my ability to handle the situation, even though I can't explain the details. And I watch his expression shift from worry to confusion to reluctant acceptance as he realizes there might be more to the situation than he understands. Just be careful, Soph, he says finally, the same words that tried to save me before, and this time I hear them as the promise of support they were always meant to be, the offer of backup from someone who will stand with me when the final confrontation comes. I will, I promise again. And this time, the words carry the weight of real commitment instead of empty reassurance. The commitment to protect my family, to serve justice, to ensure that Marcus Chen's plan backfires so completely that he becomes the victim of his own weapons. 2 weeks before the wedding, Marcus and Lily finalize their preparations with a private meeting in his apartment, and I listen from the hidden recording devices I've placed throughout his space, gathering the final pieces of evidence that will prove their conspiracy beyond any shadow of doubt. Everything is ready, Lily says, and her voice carries the excitement of someone who believes she's about to become rich beyond her wildest dreams. Someone who has no idea that she's actually planning her own destruction, and I listen to her betray our family with the same clinical attention I give to all the evidence I'm gathering. The papers are signed, the accounts are accessible, and Sophia trusts us completely, Marcus replies, his voice carrying the satisfaction of a predator who believes his prey is completely in his power, and I smile in my hidden listening post because his confidence will make his fall even more devastating when he realizes how completely he's been outmaneuvered. What about after? Lily asks, and I know she means after my parents are dead, after the money is stolen, after I'm left with nothing but grief and betrayal, and the choice between suicide and living with the knowledge that I helped destroy everyone I loved. After we disappear, Marcus says simply. New identities, offshore accounts, untraceable assets. By the time anyone realizes what happened, we'll be living like royalty in countries with no extradition treaties. The casual way he discusses my family's murder, the matter-of-fact planning for our complete destruction, the complete absence of human feeling in his voice as he describes stealing everything we've worked for and killing everyone I love provides the final proof I need that Marcus Chen is not just a criminal but a sociopath who deserves everything that's about to happen to him. And Sophia? Lily asks. And there's something in her voice that might be guilt, might be last-minute second thoughts about murdering her own sister. And I hold my breath waiting for Marcus's answer, waiting to hear exactly how my death fits into their perfect plan. Sophia will do what heartbroken people do, Marcus says with clinical detachment. She'll blame herself, spiral into depression, and eventually solve the problem permanently. The grieving daughter who couldn't live with losing her parents and her fortune at the same time. Very tragic, very believable, very clean. The words hit me like physical blows, even though I already knew what he planned, even though I've been preparing for months to hear exactly this conversation. And I think about the girl I was the first time, the naive trust fund princess who would have done exactly what he predicted, who did do exactly what he predicted, who stepped off that building because she couldn't live in a world where love was a lie and family was a weapon. But I'm not that girl anymore, and this time, Marcus Chen's plan will make him the victim instead of me. And when justice is finally served, it will be comprehensive and devastating and absolutely final. 3 days before the wedding, I'm ready. I wake up on my wedding day knowing that by sunset, Marcus Chen will be in federal custody. Lily will be facing charges for conspiracy and attempted murder, and my family will be safe from the predators who destroyed us before. And I dress in the same ivory silk Vera Wang gown that became my shroud the first time, except now it feels like armor, like the costume for a performance that will end in justice instead of tragedy. The morning proceeds exactly as I remember, the same flurry of preparation and excitement, the same vendors arriving to transform our family estate into a wedding venue, the same guests beginning to gather for what they believe will be a celebration of love. But what is actually the final act in the most elaborate trap ever set for a sociopathic predator who thought he could use love as a weapon against the wrong family? "You look absolutely radiant, darling," my mother says, adjusting my veil with the same gentle hands that will still be warm tonight instead of cold in a morgue. And I smile at her with real joy this time because I know she's going to live. Because I've ensured that the poison Lily planned to slip into her champagne has been replaced with harmless sparkling water, because the plan that killed her before will save her this time. "I love you, Mom," I tell her, and the words carry the weight of someone who has watched her mother die once and will never let it happen again. Someone who has fought a war to protect this moment, this life, this family that means everything to me. And she glows with happiness because she thinks her daughter has found her fairy tale ending instead of preventing her worst nightmare. In the bridal suite, Lily helps me with my jewelry, the same sister who betrayed me before. And I watch her performance of devoted sisterly support while the recording devices sewn into my dress capture every word, every gesture, every piece of evidence that will prove her complicity in conspiracy to commit murder and fraud on a scale that will make headlines for years. "I'm so happy for you, Sophie," she says, fastening the Hamilton family necklace around my throat. The same necklace that will stay with the family now instead of being sold to fund her escape after my parents' deaths, and I smile at her with perfect trust while my heart calculates the years she'll spend in federal prison for what she's planned to do today. "I couldn't have done any of this without you," I say, and the words are true in ways she doesn't understand, because her betrayal taught me what real evil looks like, gave me the motivation to become someone strong enough to protect my family, provided the fuel for the cold fury that transformed me from naive victim into strategic predator, and I let her interpret my gratitude as innocent appreciation instead of acknowledgement of the gifts her treachery gave me. Downstairs, guests are taking their seats in the chapel that's been transformed into a wedding venue. The same 200 influential people who witnessed my humiliation before, but who will witness Marcus Chen's destruction today. And I think about justice served in front of the same audience that saw my defeat the first time. Poetic reversal that will make his fall even more complete and satisfying. Alexander waits near the altar in his role as groomsman, his eyes dark with the same worry that tried to save me before, but when he sees me, his expression shifts to something like recognition, as if he can see the strength I've gained, the transformation from victim to survivor, the predator I've become in defense of everything I love. And he nods slightly, a gesture that might look like normal wedding ceremony acknowledgement, but feels like a soldier's salute, one warrior recognizing another. Marcus stands at the altar in his perfect tuxedo, the same costume he wore the first time, looking like every woman's dream of the ideal husband while actually being a sociopathic predator who plans to murder my parents during the reception. And when he sees me walking down the aisle, his smile is exactly the same blend of love and triumph. Except this time, I know the triumph is premature. The love is performance, and the trap he thinks he's springing is actually closing around him. "Dearly beloved," the minister begins, the same words that started my destruction before, and I listen to the familiar ceremony while mentally reviewing the evidence I've gathered, the comprehensive case that will ensure Marcus's conviction, the justice that will be served before the sun sets on this day that was supposed to end in my family's complete destruction. The vows proceed exactly as rehearsed, each word a step closer to the moment when Marcus believes he's gained legal access to everything he wants to steal. And I say, I do, with perfect sincerity, because this time the words mean something different. This time, I'm promising to love and honor justice, to cherish and protect my family, to ensure that truth and consequences find the people who deserve them. Marcus kisses me with the same practiced passion, and I kiss him back while thinking about handcuffs instead of honeymoon suites, about justice instead of love, about the moment when he'll realize that he's been outmaneuvered by the naive trust fund princess he thought was too stupid to recognize his true nature. The reception begins with the same toast my father gave before, welcoming Marcus to the family that he plans to destroy. And I watch Marcus's face as he accepts congratulations from people who have no idea they're celebrating with a murderer, a thief, a sociopath who views their joy as opportunity for exploitation. And I think about the comprehensive justice that's coming for him in approximately 2 hours. Lily moves through the crowd with practiced grace, positioning herself to execute her part of the plan. The systematic poisoning of our parents that will look like natural heart attacks brought on by wedding excitement, and I track her movements while appearing to be the radiant bride, cataloging every crime as it's attempted, documenting every piece of evidence that will ensure her conviction alongside Marcus's. Ladies and gentlemen, I say, rising from the head table with my champagne glass, and the room falls silent because everyone expects a toast from the happy bride, a moment of gratitude and joy from the woman who has supposedly found her fairy tale ending. And I smile at the assembled guests while my heart pounds with anticipation for what comes next. I want to thank everyone for sharing this special day with Marcus and me. I begin, my voice carrying perfectly across the room, and I see Marcus's expression shift slightly, some instinct warning him that something is different, something is wrong, something is not proceeding according to his carefully laid plans. Marriage is about trust, I continue, letting my gaze sweep across the room to include every guest, every witness, every person who will remember this moment when the news breaks tomorrow, about honesty, about building a life together based on mutual respect and genuine love, about protecting the people who matter most to you from anyone who might wish them harm. Marcus's eyes narrow as he realizes that my words aren't following the script we rehearsed, that there's something in my tone he doesn't recognize, something that suggests his perfect plan might not be as perfect as he believed, and I see him exchange a quick glance with Lily, a moment of predator communication that the recording devices will capture as evidence of their conspiracy. So I want to share something with all of you, I say, my voice growing stronger, more confident, carrying the authority of someone who has fought a war and won. Something about trust and honesty and the importance of protecting family from people who would destroy them for money, for revenge, for the simple pleasure of causing pain to innocent people. The room is completely silent now, 200 of the city's most influential people, sensing that something significant is happening, that this moment will be remembered and discussed and analyzed for years to come, and I see Marcus's hand move toward his phone, probably planning to abort the mission, to cut and run before whatever trap he's sensing can close around him. But it's too late for escape, because federal agents are already positioned around the room, because every exit is covered, because the evidence I've gathered over the past 6 months is already in the hands of prosecutors who have been building the case that will destroy him as completely as he destroyed my family the first time. Marcus Chen, I say, my voice carrying clearly across the silent room, you are under arrest for conspiracy to commit fraud, attempted murder, and a host of other charges that will be detailed by the federal agents who are about to take you into custody. The room explodes in shocked murmurs as agents move in from their positions around the chapel, and I watch Marcus's face transform from confusion to understanding to the kind of cold rage that reveals his true nature, the sociopathic predator behind the charming mask, and I smile at him with the same perfect trust I've been performing for 6 months while his world collapses around him. You have the right to remain silent, Agent Rodriguez says, the same woman who investigated the case the first time but arrived too late to save my family, and this time she's reading Marcus his rights while he's still wearing his wedding tuxedo, still standing at the altar where he thought he was about to gain access to everything he wanted to steal. Lily Hamilton, Agent Martinez continues, moving toward my sister who stands frozen in shock beside the champagne table. You are also under arrest for conspiracy to commit murder and fraud. And I watch my baby sister's face crumble as she realizes that her perfect plan has become her perfect destruction, that the naive older sister she thought she was manipulating was actually the architect of her downfall. "This is impossible," Marcus snarls, his charming mask finally falling away to reveal the monster underneath. Sophia couldn't have known. She's too stupid, too trusting, too naive to understand what we were planning. And his words provide the final proof that everything he ever said about loving me was performance, manipulation, calculated cruelty, designed to make me vulnerable to systematic destruction. "Actually," I say, my voice perfectly calm in the chaos of arrests and shouting and shocked guests trying to understand what they're witnessing, "I've known exactly what you were planning since the moment you approached me at that charity gala 6 months ago, and I've spent every day since then gathering evidence to ensure that your plan backfires so completely that you'll never be able to hurt anyone again." The look on his face is everything I hoped it would be, the moment when a predator realizes he's been outmaneuvered by prey he thought was helpless. When a master manipulator discovers that he's been manipulated by someone smarter, more strategic, more ruthless than he could ever imagine, and I let him see the truth in my eyes. The cold satisfaction of justice served comprehensive and final. "Sophia, please," Lily begs as the handcuffs close around her wrists. "I'm your sister. You can't do this to family." And the words are exactly what she said when I confronted her the first time, except now they fall on ears that understand what family really means, that know the difference between blood relatives and true loyalty, that will never again confuse genetic connection with genuine love. "Family protects each other," I tell her, as the agents lead her away. "Family doesn't murder parents for money, doesn't betray trust for personal gain, doesn't destroy innocent people for revenge against ancient grievances that have nothing to do with the victims." And I watch her face crumble as she realizes that the sister she thought she could manipulate and control has become someone who values justice more than blood, truth more than false peace. The reception ends in chaos, guests streaming toward exits while trying to process what they've witnessed, society reporters frantically calling their editors with the story of the decade, law enforcement coordinating the arrest of two people who planned the most elaborate financial crime in the city's history. And I stand in the middle of it all in my wedding dress, watching justice unfold exactly as I planned it. Alexander appears at my side, solid and protective, and real in a way that Marcus never was. And when he puts his arms around me, I let myself feel safe for the first time in months. Let myself remember what it means to be held by someone who actually cares about my welfare instead of my usefulness. "How long have you known?" he asks quietly, and I hear genuine admiration in his voice. Respect for the strategy I executed, appreciation for the strength it took to play a role that convincing for that long while building the case that saved my family. "Since the moment I was reborn," I say, and he doesn't ask what I mean by that because some truths are too strange for rational explanation. And I don't need him to understand the mechanics of my second chance, only to know that I used it to protect everyone I love from people who would have destroyed them. My parents appear at my other side, shaken but alive, confused but safe. And my father puts his hand on my shoulder with the weight of a man who is beginning to understand that his daughter saved his life, that the wedding he thought was the beginning of happiness was actually the prevention of systematic destruction. "I'm proud of you," he says simply, and the words carry everything that Marcus's false love never could. The genuine appreciation of someone who recognizes strength when he sees it, who understands that protecting family sometimes requires becoming someone harder than you ever thought you could be. Marcus and Lily are led away in handcuffs, their perfect plan transformed into their perfect downfall, and I watch them go with the satisfaction of someone who has served justice not just for herself but for every future victim they would have targeted, every family they would have destroyed, every life they would have ruined in pursuit of money and revenge and the simple pleasure of causing pain. This time, love wins, family survives, and justice is served with the same precision and planning that they used to commit their crimes, except turned against them by someone who learned their techniques and used them better than they ever could. The predators have become the prey, and the hunt is finally over. The media circus that follows makes headlines for weeks. The story of the naive heiress who turned the tables on the sociopaths planning to murder her family, captivating the public imagination, while prosecutors build the most comprehensive fraud case in federal court history. And I watch from the safety of my family estate as Marcus Chen and Lily's perfect plan becomes the evidence that ensures their perfect destruction. Chen Conspiracy: How a Wedding Became a Federal Case, reads the Times headline 3 days after the arrests, accompanied by photographs of Marcus and Lily in handcuffs, their charming masks finally stripped away to reveal the calculating predators underneath. And I read every article with the satisfaction of someone who has seen justice served comprehensive and final against people who deserved every consequence coming to them. The trial preparation reveals the scope of their planning in devastating detail. Months of conspiracy documented by the recording devices I placed throughout Marcus's apartment, financial records showing the shell companies they established to hide stolen assets, communications between them revealing their complete lack of human feeling for the people they planned to destroy. And I testify with clinical precision about every manipulation, every lie, every calculated gesture designed to make me vulnerable to systematic exploitation. "Mrs. Chen," the prosecutor says during my testimony, and I correct him automatically because I never legally married Marcus. The ceremony interrupted by federal agents before we could sign the documents that would have given him access to family accounts, and the courtroom ripples with laughter that Marcus doesn't share because he's finally understanding that his perfect plan failed at every single level. "Miss Hamilton," the prosecutor continues, "can you describe the defendant's behavior during your engagement period?" And I catalog every false declaration of love, every manipulation tactic, every psychological pressure technique Marcus used to convince me that betraying my family's trust was actually protecting their interests. And I watch his face as he hears his own words played back in court, his own voice providing evidence of his systematic deception. Lily's trial runs concurrently, her defense attorney trying desperately to portray her as a victim of Marcus's manipulation rather than an eager accomplice to murder and fraud. But the evidence I gathered tells a different story. Recordings of conversations where she gleefully planned our parents' deaths, financial documents showing her eagerness to profit from family destruction, communications that reveal her complete willingness to betray everyone who loved her for money and status she never earned. The defendant showed no remorse. Agent Rodriguez testifies about Lily's arrest. No concern for the family members she planned to murder, no recognition that her actions were criminal rather than simply unfortunate. And I think about the sister I thought I knew, the little girl I protected and defended and loved unconditionally, who turned out to be a stranger wearing a familiar face, a predator hiding behind genetic connection and shared childhood memories. The verdicts come down in November, exactly 11 months after my rebirth, and I sit in the courtroom surrounded by my family and Alexander, while the judge reads the sentences that will ensure Marcus and Lily can never hurt anyone again, can never use love as a weapon or family as a tool for destruction, can never target innocent people for revenge against ancient grievances that existed only in their own twisted minds. "Marcus Chen, you are hereby sentenced to 25 years in federal prison without possibility of parole," the judge intones. And Marcus's face remains stone still because he's already realized that his life as he planned it is over. That the empire he intended to build on my family's ashes will never exist. That he'll spend the rest of his youth behind bars, paying for crimes he committed against people who trusted him completely. "Lily Hamilton, you are hereby sentenced to 15 years in federal prison," the judge continues. And my sister finally breaks down crying, not from remorse for what she planned to do, but from self-pity that her perfect scheme failed, that the naive older sister she thought she could manipulate turned out to be smarter, more strategic, more ruthless than she could ever imagine. And I watch her tears with the cold satisfaction of someone who has protected her family from a predator who happened to share her DNA. The sentencing phase includes victim impact statements, opportunities for family members to address the court about how the defendant's crimes affected their lives, and I speak last, my voice clear and steady, as I explain what it means to discover that love can be a lie, that family can be a weapon, that trust can be a vulnerability exploited by people who view human feeling as weakness, to be exploited rather than strength to be cherished. The defendants plan to murder my parents, I tell the court, my words carrying across the silent room to reach every person present, every reporter transcribing my statement, every observer trying to understand how human beings can plan such calculated cruelty. Not in a moment of passion or desperation, but systematically over months of careful preparation, viewing their deaths as necessary steps in a financial crime rather than the destruction of innocent lives. Marcus stares at me from the defendant's table with the same cold calculation he showed when he thought I was too naive to recognize his true nature, and I stare back with the strength I gained from fighting a war to protect everyone I love, letting him see that the girl he manipulated and destroyed before has become someone who will never be vulnerable to his kind of predation again. They turned love into a weapon, I continue, family into a tool for destruction, trust into a vulnerability to be exploited. And they did it with smiles and declarations of affection that were completely false, completely calculated, completely designed to make their victims feel safe while they planned systematic destruction. The judge nods as I speak, recognizing the weight of betrayal that goes beyond financial crime into the realm of fundamental human cruelty, the violation of every social contract that makes civilization possible. And when I finish speaking, the silence in the courtroom feels like a moment of respect for every victim of predatory manipulation, every person who trusted someone who viewed their love as opportunity for exploitation. After the trial, life begins to return to normal, or what passes for normal when you've fought a war and won, when you've saved your family from destruction and seen justice served on people who deserved every consequence that found them, and I learned to live with the satisfaction of someone who protected everyone they love from predators who thought they were too naive to fight back. Alexander and I begin building something real together, a relationship based on genuine affection instead of manipulation, on mutual respect instead of calculated exploitation, on trust that has been earned through loyalty demonstrated under pressure rather than false promises designed to create vulnerability. And for the first time in my life, I understand what love actually means when it's not a weapon being used against me. "I've been waiting for you to be ready," he tells me one evening as we walk through the garden where my mother grows roses, where I planned my revenge against people who thought they could destroy my family with impunity, where I learned what it means to be strong enough to protect the people who matter most. And his words carry the patience of someone who understood that healing takes time. That trust must be rebuilt carefully after it's been systematically destroyed. "I'm ready now," I say, and the words carry the weight of someone who has fought for the right to build something good with someone worthy, who has earned the opportunity to love without fear, to trust without vulnerability, to build a future that no one can steal because it's founded on truth instead of lies, genuine feeling instead of manipulation, real partnership instead of predatory exploitation. My parents recover slowly from the shock of learning how close they came to death, how thoroughly they were deceived by people they welcomed into their family, how completely their trust was exploited by predators who viewed their love as weakness rather than strength. But they also gained something valuable from the experience: a deeper appreciation for genuine relationships, a clearer understanding of what family really means when it's tested by external pressure. "I'm proud of the woman you've become," my father tells me at Christmas dinner, almost exactly 1 year after my rebirth. And his words carry the weight of someone who recognizes strength when he sees it, who understands that protecting family sometimes requires becoming harder than you ever thought you could be, who appreciates the sacrifice it took to maintain a deception that convincing for that long while, building the case that saved everyone he loves. The Hamilton Industries stock price actually rises after the publicity from the trial. Investors recognizing that a company capable of protecting itself from such elaborate fraud must have stronger security measures than most corporations, better leadership than companies that would have fallen victim to Marcus's manipulation. And I take an active role in family business for the first time, contributing strategic thinking and risk assessment skills that I learned while fighting predators who thought they could exploit our generosity. Marcus's appeal is denied in February, his legal team unable to overcome the mountain of evidence I gathered during 6 months of careful documentation. And he begins serving his sentence in federal prison, where he'll have 25 years to contemplate the consequences of using love as a weapon against people who deserved protection instead of destruction. Lily writes letters from prison that I throw away without reading, because reconciliation requires remorse. And she's only sorry that her perfect plan failed, only regretful that the naive older sister she thought she could manipulate turned out to be smarter and stronger and more strategic than she could ever imagine. And I have no interest in pretending that blood relationships matter more than the choices people make about how they treat the people who love them. The anniversary of my rebirth passes quietly, marked only by private gratitude for the impossible gift of a second chance, the opportunity to undo the worst mistake in history, to save everyone I love from predators who thought they could destroy my family with impunity. And I spend the day in the garden where I plan their destruction, thinking about justice and redemption and the strange mathematics of fate that sometimes allows victims to become victors. Some stories end in tragedy, but this one ends in triumph, and I carry that knowledge with me as I build a life worth living with people worth loving, protected by strength I gained from fighting a war that no one else could fight, secure in the knowledge that love won, family survived, and justice was served comprehensive and final on people who deserved every consequence that found them. The predators have been caged, the victims have healed, and life continues forward with the strange peace that comes from knowing you fought for everything that matters and won. 1 year later, Alexander proposes on a warm spring evening in the same garden where I planned Marcus Chen's destruction. But this time, the moment is about building something good instead of protecting against evil, about choosing love freely instead of fighting to survive it. And when he kneels beside the rose bushes where my mother taught me to distinguish between flowers and thorns, I know with absolute certainty that this is real, that this is right, that this is what love looks like when it's not a weapon being used against you. Sophia Hamilton, he says, and his voice carries none of Marcus's calculated manipulation, none of the practiced sincerity that hid sociopathic planning, just genuine emotion from someone who has loved me patiently through every phase of my transformation from victim to survivor, to someone strong enough to build a future worth having. Will you marry me because I love you, not because I want anything from you except the chance to build something good together? The distinction matters more than he knows. The explicit acknowledgement that love should be about giving rather than taking, about protecting rather than exploiting, about building together rather than one person systematically destroying the other for personal gain. And I say yes with the confidence of someone who finally understands the difference between genuine affection and predatory manipulation. The ring he offers is different from Marcus's calculated display of wealth, smaller and more personal, chosen for beauty rather than status, carrying meaning instead of price tag. And when he slides it onto my finger, I think about promises that are meant to be kept instead of weapons disguised as commitment, about futures built on truth instead of foundations designed to collapse when they've served their purpose. Yes, I say, and the word tastes like freedom instead of surrender, like choice instead of manipulation, like the beginning of something real, instead of the continuation of elaborate deception. And when he kisses me, I understand for the first time what poets mean when they write about love as a force for good in the world instead of a vulnerability that predators exploit. Our wedding 6 months later is small and private. 50 people who actually care about our happiness instead of 200 who were meant to witness my destruction. And I walk down the aisle in a simple white dress instead of the elaborate gown that became evidence in a federal fraud case, toward a man who chose me for who I am instead of what I can provide access to. My parents give their blessing with joy that's entirely genuine, relief that their daughter has found someone worthy of her trust instead of another predator seeking to exploit family connections. And when my father walks me down the aisle, I know he's giving me to someone who will protect what he's protected, who will value what he values, who understands that love is about building together instead of one person systematically destroying the other. Alexander waits at the altar with honest nervousness instead of predatory confidence, real emotion instead of calculated performance. And when we exchange vows, I know every word is true, every promise is meant to be kept, every commitment is based on genuine feeling instead of strategic positioning for future exploitation. I promise to love you as you are, not as I can make you, he says during the vows we wrote ourselves. And the words acknowledge everything Marcus got wrong about relationships, everything Lily misunderstood about family, everything that predatory people never learn about the difference between genuine connection and successful manipulation. I promise to protect what we build together, I respond, to choose truth over convenience, love over exploitation, trust over control. And my words carry the weight of lessons learned through fighting a war most people never have to fight. Wisdom gained from surviving betrayal that would have destroyed someone who hadn't been given the impossible gift of a second chance. We honeymoon in Tuscany, far from the city where Marcus and Lily are serving their sentences, Far from the courtrooms where justice was served and the press conferences where their crimes were detailed for public consumption. And I learned what it means to be happy without constantly watching for threats, to trust without maintaining elaborate defense systems, to love without fear that it's being used as a weapon against me. No regrets, Alexander asks one evening as we watch sunset from our villa's terrace. And he means about the path I chose, the war I fought, the prices I paid to protect my family from predators who thought they could destroy us with impunity. And I consider the question seriously because the cost was real, the transformation permanent, the innocence lost irretrievable. None, I say finally, because saving my family was worth becoming someone harder than I ever thought I could be. Because protecting the people I love justified every strategic deception, every calculated manipulation, every cold decision required to outmaneuver sociopaths at their own game, and I wouldn't change anything about the path that led us here. 6 months after our wedding, I discover I'm pregnant, and the news brings joy that's entirely uncomplicated by fear, happiness that doesn't require constant vigilance, hope for a future that no one can steal because it's built on truth instead of lies, genuine partnership instead of elaborate deception designed to facilitate systematic theft. A baby, Alexander says when I tell him, and his face transforms with wonder that's completely authentic. Emotion that doesn't calculate profit margins or assess vulnerabilities. Joy that sees new life as a gift instead of opportunity for exploitation. And I let myself feel excited about bringing children into a world where they'll be protected by parents who understand the difference between love and manipulation. We tell my parents over dinner at the family estate, the same dining room where Marcus once charmed his way into their trust while planning their deaths, but now it's filled with genuine celebration instead of calculated performance, real family connection instead of predatory reconnaissance. And I watch my parents' faces light up with grandparent anticipation that no one will exploit or destroy in. The next generation of Hamiltons, my father says, raising his glass in a toast to continuity that seemed impossible during those dark months when predators circled our family like vultures. And I think about the legacy we're preserving, the traditions we're passing down, the love we're protecting for children who will grow up safe because their parents were strong enough to fight for their future. The baby arrives in spring, a daughter with Alexander's dark eyes and my stubborn chin. And holding her for the first time, I understand what I was really fighting for during those months of strategic deception and careful evidence gathering, not just the preservation of existing love, but the protection of love yet to be born. The defense of innocence that deserve the chance to exist in a world where family means safety instead of threat. What should we name her? Alexander asks as we sit together in the hospital room, our daughter sleeping peacefully between us. And I think about the women who shaped my understanding of strength and resilience, who taught me that love is worth fighting for, even when the fight requires becoming someone harder than you ever thought you could be. Victoria, I say, because she represents victory over predators who thought they could destroy our family. Triumph over people who used love as a weapon instead of recognizing it as strength. Success in protecting what matters most from people who deserved nothing but the justice they finally received. 5 years later, Victoria plays in the same garden where I planned Marcus Chen's destruction, chasing butterflies among the roses where I learned the difference between flowers and thorns, between genuine love and predatory manipulation, between family that protects and family that destroys. And I watch her with the satisfaction of someone who fought a war so that her daughter could grow up in peace. Marcus Chen was denied parole again last month, his prison record showing no remorse for the crimes he committed, no recognition that using love as a weapon represents fundamental cruelty rather than unfortunate miscalculation. And I read the notification with the same clinical interest I give to weather reports. Information that affects my world but doesn't control it. Lily writes occasionally from prison, letters I still throw away without reading because reconciliation requires acknowledgement, that blood relationships don't excuse betrayal, that family means loyalty rather than opportunity for exploitation, that some bridges burn completely when people choose to destroy rather than protect the people who love them. Alexander and I expand Hamilton Industries into new markets, building on the foundation my ancestors laid, but strengthening it with security measures designed by someone who understands how predators think, how they plan, how they can be stopped before they destroy everything good and innocent and trusting in their path. and our success provides resources to help other families facing similar threats. Sometimes I speak at conferences about corporate security and fraud prevention, sharing techniques for recognizing manipulation without revealing the personal cost of the education that taught me to identify predators before they can complete their plans. And I see recognition in some faces, understanding from people who have fought similar wars, gratitude from potential victims who might avoid the battles I had to fight. The foundation we establish in my parents' names funds research into financial crime prevention and victim support services, turning the knowledge I gained from fighting Marcus and Lily into resources that can help other families protect themselves from predators who view love as vulnerability rather than strength, who see trust as opportunity for exploitation rather than gift to be cherished. Do you ever wonder what would have happened if you hadn't figured it out in time? Alexander asks one evening as we put Victoria to bed, reading her stories about princesses who save themselves instead of waiting for rescue, who fight dragons instead of being devoured by them, who understand that love means protecting what matters instead of sacrificing it for false peace. I don't wonder, I say, because I lived that timeline once, felt that pain, experienced that destruction, and I know exactly what would have happened if I hadn't been given the impossible gift of a second chance, hadn't learned from my mistakes, hadn't become someone strong enough to protect everyone I love from people who deserved nothing but the consequences they finally received. Instead, I focus on what did happen, on love that won, family that survived, justice that was served comprehensive and final on people who thought they could use human feeling as a weapon instead of recognizing it as the strength that ultimately destroyed them. And I build my life on gratitude for chances taken, wars won, and futures protected for people who deserved safety instead of destruction. Marcus Chen planned his future with Lily while I planned his downfall, and in the end, my planning proved more thorough, more strategic, more effective than his, because it was motivated by love instead of greed, by protection instead of exploitation, by the desire to build rather than destroy. Sometimes the best revenge is simply living well, but sometimes justice requires becoming someone strong enough to fight for it, and I'm proud of the woman I became in defense of everything that mattered, satisfied with the choices I made to protect my family from predators who thought they could destroy us with impunity. The war is over, the victory is complete, and life continues forward with the strange peace that comes from knowing you fought for everything that mattered and won. In the end, love was stronger than manipulation, family more powerful than betrayal, and justice more comprehensive than the crimes committed against it, and that knowledge sustains me as I build a future worth having, with people worth loving, protected by strength I gained from surviving the worst, and emerging victorious on the other side. The predators have been caged, the family has healed, and the story ends not in tragedy but in triumph, with children playing safely in gardens where their mother once planned the destruction of people who thought love was a weakness they could exploit instead of the strength that would ultimately destroy them. This is what victory looks like. Not the absence of scars, but the presence of people worth fighting for, love worth protecting, and justice finally served on those who deserved every consequence that found them. The end.